UFC fighters versus animals. UFC fighters are some of the toughest people alive, but can they beat Mother Nature themselves? These fights are going to be 5 rounds with MMA rules in an octagon, so no eye pokes, no nut shots, all of that. And if the fight goes to a decision, it will be scored by 3 judges. So the first fight we have, Bilal Muhammad versus an ostrich. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, hey, I could probably beat an ostrich, dude. Look at his neck. But dude, ostriches can be up to 9 feet tall. They have a huge, intimidating presence in the octagon, and they can move up to 43 miles an hour. An ostrich is no easy fight for anyone, even Bilal Muhammad, and I think this is a much closer fight than a lot of people think. So Bilal does have a path to victory, and that includes closing the distance and targeting the neck. The ostrich is going to have the range advantage, being such a tall guy. But if Bilal is able to close the distance, there's a good chance he can lock up a rear naked choke, which will win him the fight. And he should also use leg kicks and potentially use those to go for a takedown later on in the fight. Ostriches have really skinny legs, so just a few good leg kicks could really limit the ostrich's movement and allow for Bilal to, maybe go for a takedown and get some mean ground and pound later on in the fight. Now the ostrich's path to victory is to use teep kicks to keep Bilal at distance. Ostriches have really powerful kicks. An ostrich can kick and generate a force of around 2,000 pounds, dude. So all the ostrich needs is a couple good kicks, and that could potentially end the fight. Another thing the ostrich can do is charge at Bilal to potentially get a takedown, or at least gain Bilal's respect of the takedown. And you might think, there's no way an ostrich can take down an elite wrestler like Bilal Muhammad. But that's where you're wrong, and I have Exhibit A right here. Let's go ahead and watch this. Boom. I mean, perfect takedown. And just now, you see how intimidating and how big the size of this ostrich is. I'm going to replay that real quick just so you can get the full gist. Just watch the ostrich's amazing technique on this takedown. He's going in, the ostrich closed the distance, and it's kind of a trip. He kind of trips the other person, and just now you can see how big the ostrich is compared to the average human. Okay, Bilal might be in trouble, and boom, it's like a perfect trip. Person's on his back, that could be Bilal. And now the ostrich can land some huge ground and pound here, and the more important thing is that Bilal has more respect for the takedowns of the ostrich, and now Bilal has to deal with so many more things during the fight. Now, the possible outcomes of a fight. First, Bilal could take the back and lock in a rear naked choke and win by submission. Very possible. Bilal could secure a leg lock / armbar and win by submission again. Ostriches do have skinny legs, so if the ostrich were to take Bilal down, it is possible that Bilal could use some jiu-jitsu and get a leg lock or armbar and then just win the fight right then and there. Very possible. Or the ostrich could take Bilal down at will and keep him at distance with powerful kicks and then coast to a dominant decision win. I could see this happening. Bilal Muhammad isn't exactly the type to get a lot of finishes, so this fight would probably go to decision, let's be real. The ostrich could cut Bilal, and then the bout would be stopped via doctor stoppage. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the ostrich will have gloves, so typically if an ostrich kicks you, you're not just going to feel the force of the kick, you're also going to be cut, but the ostrich will have gloves. However, their beak won't, so it can peck at Bilal, and it can peck at Bilal's face. I think it's super possible that it opens a big cut on Bilal, and then the doctor would have to stop the fight. Also, I think there's a good chance that the bout could be considered a no contest due to an unintentional eye poke via the ostrich. If the fight gets rough and dirty, they close the distance, I could totally see a case where the ostrich pecks out the eye of Bilal, and we all know Bilal's history with eye pokes, so this would be a pretty unfortunate end to the fight, but I can totally see it happening. And my prediction is that the ostrich will win this by first round doctor stoppage, right? Because Bilal is going to need to close the distance to win. I think it's going to go for takedowns, try to close the distance, try to land some mean shots to the body of the ostrich, and I think the ostrich is just going to peck him and make him bleed, and the doctor's going to have to step in. And unfortunately for Bilal, I think that's going to be it for him. And I think the ostrich would be the welterweight champion of the world if, of course, the ostrich could make the weight. The next fight Jon Jones versus a Ram. This is a good fight, and I think Jones does have a good path to victory. What he has to do, he needs to be patient, okay? This is super important. You can't make any mistakes with the Ram, because you know what he wants to do. He wants to ram into you. Jon needs to be patient and wait for the Ram to charge, and then dodge the charge and counter with kicks to the body and the legs. The truth is, I think this is going to be a pretty boring fight, like Izzy versus Romero, because I think Jon is just going to essentially wait for the Ram to attack, then dodge all of the Ram's attacks. But that is the perfect game plan for Jon to win. Essentially, Jon needs to outpoint the Ram. It is going to be really hard to finish a Ram with a knockout or a submission. He needs to win this via points. This is going to go to the decision if Jon wins. And now the Ram's path to victory is pretty simple. Just ram into Jones, dude. It's essentially his only attack, but that's what he needs to do. And can he do it? I don't know, man, because Rams are super dangerous. But Jones is one of the best at managing distance and just everything. I think there's a good chance that Jones is going to be able to stay on the outside, land some good pitter-patter shots, and essentially just win this by point fest. One of the possible outcomes is that Jones is able to avoid the Rams' charges and can successfully manage the distance and hit some good counter shots, and this would win by a pretty dominant decision. Or the Ram could catch Jones with something he doesn't see coming and knock Jones down and potentially get a TKO finish. Now, this might be a little bit of a controversial fight, right? Because this is MMA rules, and technically headbutts are illegal, and that's kind of the Rams' only move. So, in my mind, I think it's okay to legalize the Ram charge as a move in MMA, because that's all the Ram has. That's what he needs. You can't just ban him from fighting. That would be super unfair. So, and I also don't see it as a headbutt so much. I see it as a charge, and his head just happens to be leading the charge. I don't see it as a headbutt. So therefore, I think that all the Ram shots should be legal, and it's super possible that Jones just, Jones has to be perfect throughout this fight. If he makes one mistake, the Ram could hit him, knock him down, and then all of a sudden, Jones is on bottom position and the Ram is trying to TKO him up top. And, depending on what ref we have, it could get stopped very quickly. But I have Jones winning this by 49-46 decision. I think he's going to manage the distance, hit him with some good kicks. It would be very hard. I don't think he could get a rear naked choke or any sort of submission on the Ram. I mean, look at that neck. That neck is super thick, even with the strength of Jones. But I think he's going to coast to a pretty comfortable decision. Also, keep in mind, these fighters have full training camps for their opponent. Jones's team is really good at preparing him for one particular opponent, and I think that they're just going to get ready for the Rams' one attack and know how to deal with it. The next fight, Islam Makhachev versus a Kangaroo.
I'm gonna beat Kangaroo for sure. I know Kangaroo have good striking, but nobody check the grappling.
This fight has been in the works for years. This fight has already been hyped up. Islam's already been talking trash about the Kangaroo, so this one would be a real exciting one. Now, Islam's path to victory: secure a takedown. That's all he has to do. If he can take down the Kangaroo, most likely he can probably get a submission, because the submission game is really good. He submitted Charles Oliveira, so there's a good chance that he can submit a Kangaroo if he gets a takedown. Also, do not strike with the Kangaroo. If a Kangaroo lands one clean shot on you, you could be done. He could break your ribs, knock you down, knock you out. You just don't want to strike with the Kangaroo. Now, the Kangaroo's path to victory: have good takedown defense. If the Kangaroo can defend some takedowns and can land some big shots, it's super possible the Kangaroo can knock out Islam. And use teep kicks down the middle to keep Islam at bay, to maybe make Islam a little bit afraid of going for the takedowns. Now, some possible outcomes: Islam could secure a takedown and get a submission. Kangaroo could TKO or KO Islam with just one well-timed kick. That's all it would take from the Kangaroo. But keep in mind, Khabib is a great coach, and he is going to tailor-make a training camp just for Islam and this Kangaroo. And I think Islam is going to be able to avoid the strikes to Kangaroo and get the takedown, because that's what their camp is going to be completely focused on for this. And so I think that Islam is going to essentially easily take down the Kangaroo and win via rear naked choke. I think this is going to be a pretty easy fight for Islam. All he has to do is just not get hit by the Kangaroo, and I think he can do that. I think he can just blast a double leg, or maybe use some judo and creative trips to get the Kangaroo down. Then I think is going to get the victory. And now the next bout, this is a really tough one. The average YouTube viewer watching this video right now versus a like and subscribe button. Who wins? Obviously YouTube commenter by first round knockout with the like button. Do that right now. But the next fight, the one in the thumbnail, the one you're probably here for, Francis Ngannou versus a Silverback gorilla. This has been talked about before, and I think it's pretty clear how this ends up. So let's get into it. Ngannou's path to victory: go for the knockout. You can't point fest a Silverback gorilla. I don't even think you can submit this guy. I mean, if you want to go back, how are you going to submit this guy? A leg lock? No. Armbar? No. Rear naked choke? No way, man. So Ngannou, you have to go for the knockout. The Silverback's path to victory is just to maul Francis. These guys are so strong, dude. Their punching force is up to 2,700 pounds, and they are over 9 times stronger than an adult male. They can deadlift over 1,700 pounds. So these guys are absolute tanks. And the Silverback just needs to, as Bradley Martin would say, just get a hold of Francis, and that's all he has to do to win. And some possible outcomes: either party could get KO'd. I do believe if Francis Ngannou were to hit a perfect kick on the gorilla, it could KO him. Like, if we go back and look at the stance, I mean, this is like a perfect stance for Ngannou to front kick him in the face, or even just kick him in the face. And I feel like that would be Ngannou's best possible chance. But realistically, I have the Silverback gorilla by first round finish by death. I don't think any human is beating the Silverback gorilla. It is too strong, too durable, and it's possible that Francis gets that one insane kick, but very, very, very unlikely. So I have Silverback by death.